Hi and welcome to the demo video for QOOBIT VRoid control rig. To get started, we're going to go into our plugins and make sure that our plugin is enabled. So doing a quick search for Q, you should see Q VRoid control rig under here. If it's the first time we're using it, you may need to check this off and restart the editor for it to be active. On top of this, we also need to make sure that two other plugins are also installed and enabled. We have VRM for You and VRoid SDK. We'll show shortly in the documentation where to grab these and how to install these as well. So going back in here, we're going to go to QOOBIT, Rigging, and VRoid Control Rig Maker. At the top right here, we'll find the documentation button, and once we press that, it'll take us straight to our documentation here. And if you scroll down here, quickly you'll see that there are two links to get VRM for You and VRoid SDK. So VRM for You is just a download on GitHub, and you may need to show all assets underneath the release to see all the engine versions that are available and make sure you're getting the right one for your engine version. So for example, if we can first get to here, you might not see all the engine versions, so you do want to click show all assets to make sure you see all of them. For VRoid SDK, you just need to sign up for their registration for their developer and make sure you agree to their terms of service in order to get access to the SDK for your engine version. So making sure that we have all these three plugins enabled, we can get started. From here, we're going to go into VRoid Studio and make sure that we are in the VRoid Editing tab. For the time being, if you are exporting, make sure you are exporting from VRoid Editing, as if you're exporting from Dress-Up feature, you may get a different skeletal mesh hierarchy in Unreal Engine for your VRM. So from here, we're just going to pick Avatar Sample D. And while it loads up, we will just do a quick export here with the defaults. We're going to export as VRM. And we're going to click the export button here. So we're going to leave everything default. And we're going to hit export. And we're going to quickly save this to our D drive. And we're good to go and to go back into Unreal Engine. So back into here, we're going to go into our content browser, and we're going to quickly import our newly downloaded VRM file. So from here, if we have everything enabled, you should see this VRM import options. We're not going to fiddle with any of the options here. We're just going to click import and make sure we have all our assets imported. So you'll see quickly that we'll have assets for textures, materials, as well as IK rigs, as well as skeletal mesh and an anim blueprint, all downloaded. So the first thing you want to do, you can see that there's an asterisk on all these assets. You just generally want to save them and make sure they're all saved to disk. From here, we're going to just do a quick filter for skeletal mesh, and we're going to load that into our VRoid Control Rig Maker's skeletal mesh slot. So from here, we can click Create Control Rig with all the default settings here, and it's going to run its thing. This may take up to a minute or two depending on how many bone chains there are, but if you do want a faster export without dynamics, you can uncheck the dynamics for auxiliary bones chains. But ideally, if you want to have all the features enabled, you want to make sure that this is checked and just be a little bit patient and let the control rig do its thing and build its thing from the ground up. So on top of this, we also have rename hair bones, which we'll show shortly. And this is because when we import the VRM, by default right now, the hair bone names are really long bone names, and Control Rig doesn't like that. So we have a function that's built in here that will rename the bone names. Because we don't want to break the original imported mesh, we also have an additional feature where we duplicate the skeletal mesh and the skeleton into a separate version so that we're not working destructively and we have duplicate copies for the skeletal mesh and the skeleton, which the control rig is using, that contains the nice hair bone names. So we're going to give this a little bit more time. Okay, so once it's done creating, you should see a pop-up window here that says it's been created and where it's actually being created at. Once you press OK, your content browser should navigate you directly to the newly created control rig over here. So on top of this, because we have set default rig checked off, if we go into the skeletal mesh here, let's see down here, so if we scroll down a little bit, you'll see that we also have a new skeletal mesh that was created as part of the renaming of the hairs. And you'll see that in this details panels here, we look for animating rig. The default control rig has also been assigned to the skeletal mesh. And this will be important later on when we show how this all works with the sequencer. So going back to here, we do an undo for our filter. We can see that we have a newly created renamed mesh, as well as a skeleton that corresponds with the skeletal mesh. And to quickly show why we're doing this, we're going to go into the original skeleton mesh here, and we're going to take a look at the skeleton structure. So you can see that all the hair names here have these really long names that doesn't work really well with control rig. And with this version right here, we have these nice names now for the hair bone names. So to get started with animating, it's quickly as simple as dragging the control rig into your viewport, and optionally you can convert it to a spawnable, and then you can reset the defaults. And we're back at the start now. We're ready to animate. So from here, what we can do is do the standard stuff that you would do on a MetaHuman or Manny, and you can rotate all the bones and the body as needed. But you'll also notice that you have extra controls for the eyes here, for the aim, which also includes aim for the individual eyes. So if we click this one here, we can also move the right eye, over here. Click the eyes, and we can move the eyes individually, and also in tandem with the aim here as well. On top of that, we also have a convergence control that you can use to converge the eyes. And on top of that, we also have the default bust controls, which allows you to rotate the bones for the bust. Let me select it correctly. And not all characters have the bust skinned, so depending on the character, you may need to adjust the different bones to get the FK controls working for those. On top of that, by default, we have dynamics enabled for all the auxiliary bones. So this includes the hair, the dress, or any other props that may be attached to your character. So if we do a quick rotation on the hips, you can see that the ears, the hair, and the tail at the back also move as well. So if you don't want the dynamics, you can go to the global controls here, go to the dynamic switch, and we can toggle it off. So once we toggle it off, the dynamics will not be running when we rotate our character. But for general purposes and for the demo purpose of this demonstration, we're just going to enable it so that we can see all the bells and whistles here. Oops, sorry, we want to do this one, and we want to do this one for now. Yeah. So on top of this, if we want the bust bones to do their simulations as well, we can go to the bust dynamic switch and enable it, and you'll see that the controls for the F key controls for the bust have now disappeared. But at this point, those are all simmed and simulated dynamically, similar to the hair and the tail. And as we move it, the bust, you can see that it's moving accordingly in the same manner. If we wanted to adjust the bust strength or the dampening of them, we can find them under spine 2 control, and you can see bust strength and bust dampening. So we can also adjust this, for example, to 0.1, and you can see that with the lower dampening, the controls for the bones, so rather the bones move slower and dampen and stop at a slower rate. And you can adjust the strength for similar results as well. If you want to further fine-tune your control rig dynamic settings, you can open up the control rig that we generated. And inside at the very bottom, you'll see a section called forward chains. These were all procedurally created and are contextually added to the skeletal setup of your imported character. So this may vary from character to character, but when you create it with our widget, these will be unique and bespoke to your specific character. So if you wanted to adjust the dynamics of a specific chain, similar to how we adjusted the strength and the dampening on the bust, you can go in here and look at the specific bone chains that are involved, and you can adjust the strength and the dampening values on here as well. So if you need to, you can come in here and adjust it. And if you do want to add FK controls like we did for the bus controls, you simply just need to add your own extra controls in the rig hierarchy, and you wire them up into the control slot here for the given chain, and it should react similarly to the bus bones here. But for general, we only assume that all characters from VRoid always have the bus bones, and all the auxiliary bones are unique to each character. So that's why we solved it this way, by putting everything in a forward chain solve that's generated on demand as we create the control rig. And that should include all the features that we have in version 1.0 of QOOBIT's VRoid control rig. Thanks.